Some NBA contracts are so bad, they make you wonder if the team's GM was playing 2K on rookie mode with the salary cap turned off. And every season, there's a fresh batch of overpaid, underperforming players cashing checks like all-stars while playing like bench warmers. Whether it's injury-prone veterans milking max extensions or young potential stars who peaked in their rookie year, the league is flooded with deals that make zero basketball sense. And what's worse, these aren't just bad contracts. They're absolute cap space killers wrecking rosters and burying championship hopes for years. So let's break down the worst contracts in the NBA right now, starting with the former MVP, who's cashing in big for doing basically nothing. Ben Simmons, the $40 million mystery. Remember when Ben Simmons was supposed to be the next LeBron? A 6th and 10 point guard, with elite vision, lockdown defense, and a body built to dominate? Yeah, that guy's been gone for a while. What's left is a ghost in a Nets jersey floating up and down the court, sometimes even refusing to shoot literally. And yet, in 2025, Simmons is earning $40 million for playing just 15 games. That's over $2.6 million per game, for a guy averaging 6 points, 5 rebounds, and 4 assists numbers that would get most players benched or waived. Let's be honest, Simmons hasn't been the same since that infamous 2021 playoff meltdown in Philly. It's like his confidence got deleted from his hard drive. Since then, it's been injuries, excuses, and zero accountability. And the Nets? They're stuck. No team wants to trade for him because who wants a max salary point guard who's afraid of free throws and has less offensive aggression than a yoga instructor? Worse yet, Simmons still has another year left on his contract at $43 million. That's superstar money for someone who's become a role player on a good day. And while fans hoped he'd bounce back after back surgery and multiple mental resets, Simmons continues to prove that potential without production is just a fancy way to lose games. The Nets had dreams of building a dynasty with KD, Kyrie, and Harden. Now they're paying $40 million for a guy who shoots fewer threes than Rudy Gobert. Brooklyn's rebuild is real, and Ben's contract is the anchor weighing them down. But if you thought that was bad, wait until you hear about a guy making even more money than Simmons, who hasn't been healthy for a single playoff run in 5 years. Kawhi Leonard, the load management legend. At this point, Kawhi Leonard might as well be a myth. A 2-time Finals MVP, two-way superstar, and one of the most unguardable players when healthy. When healthy, those are the two words that have defined Kawhi's career for the last half-decade. Because let's be real, since signing with the Clippers in 2019, Kawhi's played in just over half the games. And in 2025, he made $49 million to appear in 39 of them. That's $1.25 million per game. And that doesn't even include the postseason wearshocker. He got hurt again. The Clippers built their entire franchise around Kawhi. They handed him the keys, brought in Paul George, spent every asset they had to build a contender. And what do they have to show for it? 0 finals appearances. Kawhi has played in just one healthy playoff run since arriving in LA. And every year it's the same tragic cycle load management, optimism, a few highlight games, and then boomies, out with some vague knee issue that keeps him out indefinitely. What's wild is the Clippers doubled down anyway. In 2024, they gave Kawhi a 3-year, $153 million extension, starting in 2026, when he'll be 35 years old. That means, barring a miracle, LA is locked into paying $50 million a year for a part-time player with no timetable for returns and knees. That sounded like Rice Krispies when he walks. And don't forget the context. While Kawhi's been riding the bench in $1,000 suits, guys like Anthony Edwards, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and Tyrese Halliburton are playing every night, grinding, leading their teams. Kawhi, meanwhile, is just showing up for the direct deposits. To make it worse, the Clippers are moving into a brand new arena, the Intuit Dome. New building, fresh start. But the same old problem. Their superstar is made of glass. And with Paul George also aging and due for a monster extension, this team might be facing the most expensive treadmill in NBA history. But as bad as Kawhi's contract is, it still comes with the memory of past greatness. The next player? He's got no finals MVPs, no signature moments, and absolutely no business making $60 million a year. When you hear a name like Bradley Beal, you'd think of a franchise cornerstone, an all-NBA level scorer, a guy who delivers in clutch moments and leads his team deep into the playoffs. But what if I told you he hasn't done any of that in years, and yet he's making over $50 million per season? Beal signed one of the most ridiculous contracts in recent NBA history. 5 years, $251 million with a full no-trade clause. Yes, you heard that right. The Wizards gave a guy who never led them past the second round a contract that let him call every shot. And for what? So he could average 23 points a game on a lottery team? Now, Washington finally pulled the plug and traded him. You'd think the return would be massive for a player making $250 million. But what did they get? A couple of second-round picks and some spare parts. That's how low Beal's value had sunk. The Suns took the bait and added him to a team already loaded with Devin Booker and Kevin Durant, hoping he'd be the missing piece. Instead, he became the missing player. Beal missed nearly half the 2025 season with random injuries that never seemed to heal. And when he did play, he was just there. Not bad, but not elite. A third option who doesn't play defense, doesn't pass much, and can't stay on the court consistently. And here's the kicker. He's due $57 million in 2027 for a guy who's already declining in both health and production. And don't let the numbers fool you. Beal might give you 20 points, but he needs 17 shots to do it. He's no longer explosive, his isolation plays are stale, and he's a liability on defense. If he's your third best player, you might survive. But if he's making more money than both your first and second options, that's a disaster. The Suns are now stuck with 3 stars who all need the ball, no depth, no cap flexibility, and 0 draft picks for the next 5 years. And guess what? They're not even a top 3 team in the West. Bradley Beal's contract isn't just bad, it's paralyzing. It's the kind of deal that looks worse every single year. And unless Phoenix pulls off a miracle, it'll go down as one of the most expensive mistakes in NBA history. But while Beal's deal hurts because of injury and overestimation, the next guy on the list, he's just not that good. And somehow, he's still getting superstar money. Jordan Poole. From champion to chaos. There are bad contracts in the NBA, and then there's Jordan Poole. A player who went from a promising young guard with championship swagger to one of the biggest money-burning disasters in the league. Let's rewind. In 2022, Poole was on top of the world. He just helped the Warriors win another title, hit big shots in the playoffs, and looked like their future after Steph Curry. The Warriors rewarded him with a 4-year, $128 million contract, expecting him to carry the torch. Instead, he tripped over it. Since signing that deal, Poole's game completely unraveled. His shot selection became reckless, his decision-making borderline reckless, and his defense, well, let's just say a traffic cone might be more useful. He turned into a walking turnover, taking contested 30-footers in transition, like he thought he was Curry himself. The Warriors had seen enough and shipped him off to Washington, where he was supposed to thrive as the lead guy. No more pressure, no more sharing the ball with Hall of Famers. This was his team now. And what did he do with it? Absolutely nothing. In 2025, Poole averaged just 15 points on horrendous shooting splits, under 41% from the field and barely 30% from 3. He was getting benched in crunch time. On the Wizards, the same team that was tanking from day one. Fans started calling him Trick or Treat Poole because you never knew if he was going to drop 25 or shoot them out of the game. With a 3 for 17 disaster. And remember, this guy is getting paid over $30 million per year. For what? Viral clips of him dribbling the ball off his foot? Shrugging after missing wide open teammates? Laughing on the bench down 25 points? The worst part is, Poole doesn't seem to care. His energy is off. His focus is gone. And his value? Rock bottom. Nobody wants that contract. Not even rebuilding teams. Washington is stuck with him for 3 more years, watching their cap space burn while Poole puts on a bricklaying clinic. This wasn't just an overpay it was a gamble on a player who fooled everyone. A few good months with Steph and Clay doesn't make you a star. And now that Poole's out of that system, the truth is loud and clear. He's not ready to lead, and he might never be. But if you think Jordan Poole's contract is painful, just wait till you hear about the next guy. Because somehow he's paid even more, and doing even less. If there's one contract that makes front offices wake up in cold sweats, it's Bradley Beal's. Now let's be real. At one point, Beal was elite. A certified bucket, averaging over 30 points per game, carrying the Wizards with smooth scoring and polished footwork. He looked like a franchise cornerstone. But then, Washington made a decision that shocked the entire league. They gave him a 5-year, $251 million Supermax contract with a not-raid clause. Let that sink in. A player who never made an All-NBA first team. A guy who never led his team past the second round. The Wizards made him untradeable by choice. That move destroyed their flexibility and buried their future. But eventually, Washington bailed and handed Beal over to Phoenix. The Suns thought they were forming a super team Durant, Booker, and Beal. 3 killers. Or so they thought. What they actually got was a top-heavy mess. Beal played just 48 games. In 2025, constantly dealing with injuries. Even when he was on the court, he was a shell of his former self. He averaged a quiet 16 points per game, the lowest since his rookie year. His explosiveness is gone. His defense? Non-existent. And on a team that needed leadership, Beal looked passive. Like a guy who cashed in and checked out. Remember, Phoenix is paying this man $50 million per year. And it gets worse. His salary increases every season. In 2027, Beal will be earning $57 million, and he'll be 34 years old. That's superstar money. For a third option who can't stay healthy and vanishes in big games. But the real horror is that no team can trade for him without Beal's approval. That no-trade clause? Still active. So the Suns are stuck. They mortgaged their depth and future picks to build around 3 scorers, and now one of them is barely showing up. Phoenix went all in, and Beal might be the anchor that drags the whole thing down. At this point, Beal isn't just overpaid. He's the league's most expensive mystery box. He might give you 20 points one night. He might sit the next 5 games with a random injury. There's no rhythm, no fire, and no sign he can be the Beal from 4 years ago. And when you consider the money, the health, the production, and that ironclad contract, Bradley Beal may hold the single worst contract in the NBA today. From Rudy Gobert's golden toilet salary, to Poole's playground antics, and now Beal's Houdini act, it's clear that in today's NBA, paying big doesn't always mean getting big results. Because the worst contracts aren't just about money. They're about hope that was sold and never delivered. What makes a contract the worst in the NBA isn't just how much money is involved. It's how far the reality falls from the promise. Teams don't throw $200 million at role players because they want to fail. They do it because they believe. They believe this guy's about to level up. They believe this is the missing piece. They believe the stats on paper will finally translate into wins. But in the NBA, belief is expensive, and sometimes it burns you alive. We've seen it with DeAndre Ayton, the big man who looks the part, but plays like he's already cashed out. With Patrick Williams, who had the body of a star, but maybe not the heart of one. And with names like Rozier, Grant, Murray, and Beal, the pattern is clear. Massive checks, microscopic returns. Sometimes it's injuries. Sometimes it's attitude. Sometimes it's just plain regression. But in all cases, the result is the same. Teams left paying superstar money for backup-level impact, and fans wondering how their franchise got locked in financial handcuffs. But if you're looking for a silver lining, there is one. Every bad contract teaches a lesson. It reminds front offices that potential isn't production, and that past stats don't always predict future value. It forces teams to build smarter, not just louder. Because in the NBA, you can't just buy a championship. You have to build. 1. Brick by brick. Player by player. Contract by contract. And those who forget that, well, they end up on this list. Thanks for watching. The scariest thing about bad contracts isn't just the money. It's what you can't see on the statty sheet. It's the opportunity cost. When a team sinks $40, $50, $60 million into a player who's not delivering, that's not just dead money. That's a roster spot, a role, and a system built around a ghost. That's one less star you can chase. One less young player you can develop. One more season where the ceiling of your team is held down by a guy who was supposed to lift it. And the damage doesn't stop there. It seeps into the locker room. It affects morale. When guys see the highest paid player on the team walking through the motions, collecting checks, and still getting the green light, how long before the rest of the team checks out? Franchises don't collapse in one day. They rot slowly, from the inside. And overpriced contracts? They're often the match that lights the fuse. Look at what happened to Washington, or Charlotte, or even Miami. These were once playoff contenders. Now, they're in cap hell, stuck in limbo. Not bad enough to tank, not good enough to compete. All because they bet on the wrong guy at the wrong time. For way too much. And the cycle keeps repeating. Because every offseason, some team talks itself into thinking this time it'll be different. That this guy just needs the right system. That those numbers in a contract year weren't fake. That the injuries are behind him. That the attitude problems were just media overblown. But in the NBA, reality always catches up. You can't hide on defense. You can't fake leadership. You can't outrun age. And you definitely can't trick the salary cap. Eventually, the bill comes due. And when it does, it's the fans who pay the price. So the next time your team backs up the Brinks truck for someone who hasn't proved they're worth it, ask yourself this: are we about to sign a savior? Or add another name to the next list of the NBA's worst contracts? Because history has a habit of repeating itself. And the league? It never forgets. Bad contracts don't just define players or teams. They define an era. A reminder that in the NBA, money and talent don't always go hand in hand. As fans, it's easy to point fingers. To blame players for injuries or declining skills. To blame GMs for bad evaluations or rushed decisions. But the truth is, basketball is unpredictable. What looks like a no-brainer in June can become a nightmare by November. The key for franchises now is to learn from these mistakes. To build smarter deals with more flexibility. To balance potential with production. To value durability and effort, as much as scoring and highlight reels. Because the difference between a championship team and a lottery squad is often measured in these contracts. And in the salary cap era, you don't just win games, you win contracts. We've seen the cost of getting it wrong. Now it's time to see the value of getting it right. So whether you're a front office insider, a casual fan, or just someone who loves the game, remember this: every baller wasted on a bad contract is a chance lost, a season delayed, a dream deferred. But every smart deal, it's a building block, a step closer to greatness. The NBA's worst contracts right now might look like mistakes, but they're also lessons. Lessons that could change the future of basketball. The final verdict. The end of the day, the NBA is a business, a high-stakes game where every contract is a gamble. Some pay off big, creating legacies and championships. Others, they become burdens, weighing down franchises for years. The players on this list aren't just names or numbers. They're symbols of what happens when expectations don't meet reality. When promise is met with disappointment, when potential is overshadowed by setbacks. But here's the truth. Every player has a story. Every contract a context. Injuries, team fit, coaching changes, all play a part in turning deals into disasters or diamonds in the rough. So before we label a contract the worst, it's worth asking, is this the end of the road or just a rough patch? Is there still hope for a turnaround? Only time will tell. And that's what makes the NBA so unpredictable and so thrilling. One thing is certain, the teams that manage their contracts wisely will be the ones lifting trophies, while the others are left cleaning up the mess. This list is more than just criticism. It's a warning, a challenge, and maybe, just maybe, a roadmap for the future. Stay tuned, because in the NBA, nothing stays the same for long.